Let's put Jim Trotter's tweet up here. NFL owners should be careful. A few prominent black players are telling me they want to sit out a game to make their feelings felt and force change action. They're tired, frustrated, and emotional. Only a few at this point, but sparks become flames and flames become infernos. Very vivid imagery from my colleague from the NFL Media Group, Jim Trotter, back here on the show. How are you, Jim?
I'm good. How you doing,
I
Rich?
appreciate your patience hanging on hold here on this Friday.
No problem. I love
you.
hearing about the RichEisenShow.com.
I appreciate. You know what? My phrase is, if not me, who, and if not now, when. So okay.
It applies to so many things in life.
No doubt. So walk me through your tweet and all the way from your information gathering to you hitting send on it.
Yeah, Rich, I had been hearing some of this yesterday, and particularly after the Lions decided to cancel practice, and even within team buildings and team meetings, there have been players who have brought this up and raised the idea of players sitting out games. But I guess what really got me this morning at in the 6 o'clock hour, I got a call from a player, a very prominent player, and he was really emotional about it and said he had been crying for 3 days and said enough's enough, and he believed that a real statement and cause for action could be made by black players sitting out a game. And it was something he was going to talk to other players about. So, again, people want to go from A to Z right away when a tweet is put out. And that's why I tried to make it clear that this is not some large group of players that I've heard from. It is a few, but the fact that a few prominent players are talking about it could spark sort of a movement among these guys. And I'm not going to lie to you, Rich, the call this morning was unsettling, to hear a man that emotional and that much pain about what's going on. It truly is bigger than football for some of these guys, and that's why I think the owners would be smart to be proactive on this instead of reactive. And what we know about the NFL traditionally is that it is a reactive league and not a proactive league. And if it doesn't prepare for this, potentially it could not be pretty.
Well, and again, I'm going to have this conversation with Chris Haynes of Yahoo, whose report today about what the players discussed Wednesday night after the cancellation of games. The conversation that apparently the players even had first blush in the NBA on Wednesday night is similar to, I guess the question I'm going to have here is what would be considered concrete enough action to prevent a player from sitting out, or this player that you spoke to today?
The answer is different for everyone, obviously. I mean, players aren't a monolith, But I would say at the end of the day, the one thing that all of the black players that I talk to want is for unarmed black people to stop being killed by the police.
By the way, plus one on that, Jim.
So how do we get there becomes the question. And I think with players at this point who are starting to discover their voice and starting to discover their power and how much power there is in unity, I think what they would like to see, at least what I'm hearing from owners, is they want to see the owners step out front and be a partner in this and not just put out statements and make donations, but to actually be out front and use their political capital and political influence that they have to try and make change. And and I've thrown this out there, and this has not come from a player, it's just me speaking, is that we know the league is involved with a voter registration drive, which is tremendous, and there is talk of opening up stadiums for polling places. But how about if the owners got out front on camera with their players and said, for instance, we want and we demand that the voter rights reform bill by the late John Lewis be put on the Senate floor, which Mitch McConnell has not brought to the floor. Those sorts of things are action. Those sorts of things can lead to change. And I think that's what players are looking for now from ownership, is to step out front with them, to be visible, and to try and make change. And what I was told yesterday by a union source is that back in 2018, when the NFL and the Players Association were discussing changes to the anthem policy, that one of the things players left there with was a sense and a feeling from some owners that these owners were going to use their political influence, and that's the term that was used to me, political influence, to make real change. And so now it is about that. I think players want to hold owners accountable on this. And so I think that that's a step in terms of moving it in the right direction. Because, look, Rich, the reality is that the players have demonstrated to raise awareness, they have sparked conversations, and yet unarmed black people are still being killed by the police. That's the reality.
Jim Trotter, my colleague from the NFL Media Group here on the Rich Eisen Show. Well, what have you spoken to any players about? I guess would the Ravens statement that was remarkable in its detail that I've never seen something like that from a sports franchise, let alone an NFL franchise. Is that something that would be considered substantial?
Sure, but if you read the statement, and I applaud the statement as I did yesterday, but if you read the statement that says we can demand these things, well, let's take out the word can and just say we demand these things. I mean, it's one word we're omitting there, but it makes a world of difference in terms of possible change. So, and I'm not trying to in any way put down what the Ravens did. I think it was tremendous to have an ownership group step out front and recognize the core issue of what's going on here, just as the 49ers did when they put out their statement back in the day about systemic racism being at the core of everything that is happening here. So, but let's take out what we can do and let's say, let's do it, Stop talking and be about the action.